Yeah, well, especially around negotiations, that's a great question because predominantly negotiation has a reputation of attacking the other side, having leverage. You know, everybody asks about leverage. Yeah, leverage is about hurting people. Leverage is about inflicting pain on the other side. And some people just don't want to attack the other side. They may not be in love with negotiation because how they perceive it to be. Great negotiation is about great collaboration. It's about a great long-term relationship. One of the great things that, the most flattering thing that somebody ever told me, I was sitting at a cocktail party one night and they said, you know, your book it's not about negotiation, it's about collaborating. It's about building a great collaboration for long-term relationship. That's what your book is about. And that's it exactly. If you haven't fallen in love with the process yet, it's probably because you don't want to inflict pain on other people, or you don't want to have pain inflicted on you. Yeah, all right, so great. Those are the same thing.
Hi, it's Robin Sharma, and you're tuning into the Millionaire Student Show with Sashin.
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 Sashin. Sashin. Sashin.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode on the Millionaire Student Show, where I get the opportunity to pick the minds of this generation's thought leaders, change makers, disruptors, innovators, and inspirations. Dissect their story from the pain they went through, the price they paid, and what their prize looks like today. I formulated the Millionaire Student Self-Development System and Company because this is what I was searching for when I first entered the entrepreneurial world at 17 years old. My mission and purpose is to serve you with virtual mentorship to consciously make your clock tick without taking the thunder away from today's guest. He is a former FBI hostage negotiator, the CEO of the Black Swan Group, and author of a New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestseller titled Never Split the Difference. His career truly kicked off when he was the lead international kidnapping negotiator for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, as well as the FBI's hostage negotiations representative for the National Security Council's hostage working group. He was also the case agent on such cases such as TERRSTOP, the TWA Flight 800 catastrophe, and negotiated the surrender of the first hostage taker to give up in the Chase Manhattan Bank robbery hostage taking. During his 24-year tenure in the Bureau, he was trained in the art of negotiation by not only the FBI, but Scotland Yard and Harvard Law School. He's also a recipient of the Attorney General's Award for Excellence in Law Enforcement and the FBI Agents Association Award for Distinguished and Exemplary Service. The Millionaire students, please help me in welcoming today's guest on the show. He has been featured in Time, Business Insider, Entrepreneur Inc., Fast Company, Fortune, The Washington Post, Success Magazine, CNN, ABC News, to only name a few. Welcome, Chris Voss. Chris, the last time you and I hung out was in a mansion in Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, and I also remember the very first time we met. I was speaking at a networking event in Los Angeles, and you came up to me and you gave me your business card, and we took a picture of it so I could remember that. And I was actually looking at the pictures, and I saw, man, this is actually Chris Voss. That's the guy that I took a picture with. Now we have him on the show. And that's the law of attraction. But I truly want to thank you for being on the Millionaire Student Show today.
Yeah, man, and law of attraction, absolutely. If you're trying to make the world a better place, you know, I want to get to know you, and you are. So yeah, this is great. That's what attracts us. We're helping people make the world a better place.
Love it. So for those who don't know you, maybe they've never come across your book, Never Split the Difference, or seen you on social media, or maybe they have no clue about how serious negotiations are. How did it all begin for Chris Voss?
Yeah, well, I was an FBI hostage negotiator. I was an FBI agent, became a hostage negotiator, worked out of New York City, and then ended up being the FBI's lead international kidnapping negotiator. I handled every case of every American kidnapped anywhere in the world, which gave me experience in every culture in the world. So I got out of the FBI, started teaching business negotiation. I went to Harvard Law School to get better at negotiation while I was still in the FBI. And the guys at Harvard said, look, man, you're doing the same things we are. You know, what you're trading is different, but the dynamics are the same. And started to collaborate with them and, you know, brought this stuff into the business world, started teaching business negotiation in a couple different universities, put the book out. It's the best-selling business negotiation book in the world because it works everywhere, works with people.
So you joined the FBI, and that's where your career as a hostage negotiator brought you face to face with a range of criminals, including robbers, terrorists, etc. You reached the pinnacle of that profession, and then you became FBI's lead international kidnapping negotiator. Those looking from the outside looking in, you had such an interesting job, but what did an average day look like from the inside out?
Yeah, well, when I was in the lead, it was pretty cool. I mean, you never know for sure what you're going to be faced with coming to work. And on any given day, there's anywhere from 1 to 4 Americans that are being held someplace, whether it's Afghanistan, whether it's the Philippines, whether it's Iraq, whether it's Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador. Somebody's being held. So I'm in a dangerous negotiation pretty much every day. In addition to that, I worked with a great team of really smart guys. I mean, you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go as a team. I've always been on great teams, and we would always be working on getting better. We never stopped getting better. There was a Dutch businessman that once said, the ability to learn faster than your competition is the only sustainable competitive advantage. If you're a learner, you will always stay ahead of the people around you. And everybody I worked with always wanted to learn. So besides working operationally, every day I was learning and teaching. So learning, teaching, doing all those things. And it was great. I enjoyed it.
So you've done 150 kidnapping negotiations. And what was one of your most, interesting experiences in your career?
Wow. I mean, I learned from everything. So they were all interesting outcomes that we didn't expect. We made a significant change in one of our negotiation techniques called proof of life. And when we made that pivot, I mean, I worked on my team. It was my idea, but with their help. And I remember when we were changing the rules, I said to the guys that I'm working with, like, am I smoking dope here? Do you guys think I'm crazy? Am I out of my mind? And they were like, no, this makes all the sense. So the first time that we pivoted into proof of life, a change in a proof of life, it had an impact that we didn't expect on the bad guy, a very good impact. And it's a great thing about a good strategy. If you got a good strategy, there will be unexpected things that you don't expect to have. Unexpected, you don't expect. That's a redundancy. But good stuff. Good process brings you good things, and be prepared for good things to happen. As it turned out, we just wanted to make it harder for the bad guy to hurt the hostage. He actually promised us he would never hurt the hostage inadvertently, but we knew that that's what he said. So that was one of the most interesting days when we really found out about the benefits of good strategy and good process, especially new strategies.
Having an inside view is very interesting because, when you look at negotiating, it's partially sales, and the majority of people are terrified of sales. But you would have to sell a criminal, a bank robber, or a terrorist on why they need to do an exchange. You negotiated the surrender of the first hostage, taking, the first hostage taker to actually give up in the Chase Manhattan bank robbery hostage. What did that process look like? Because that's a prestige, Chase Manhattan Bank, that's very prestige, but, the whole hostage, what did it look like, the preparation going into it?
And, you make a great point, because the overlap between sales and negotiations is it's hard to distinguish between the two. if you kind of the same business in so many different ways. Now, the prep for the Chase Bank, you fall to your highest level of preparation. I'd come to learn a couple things. I'd really come to learn how much emotional intelligence could impact people and get them to change their mind. Now, back when I learned it in the early 1990s, we didn't even have the term emotional intelligence or recognize how important it was. But I had learned a process that was really based in emotional intelligence. And I was satisfied that the process was going to be as good a process as I could have. So I just fell into my process. I've been practicing. I'd had lots of small stakes practice for high stakes results. So when you get in the big game, if you've been practicing, you're ready. And that was really the biggest difference. I'd been doing the process and I was satisfied it was going to give me the best possible outcome.
So I have the utmost respect for anyone who actually masters their craft, despite the industry they're from or even how publicly recognized they are. But whilst most people just see the word mastery, I see the preparation behind that innovation. The thought process, the research, the sleepless nights, and the countless hours you put in. How much went into your preparation versus the action?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's kind of two issues. I mean, when you get into a good process, you can get better than everybody else really quickly because nobody else has got the process great. Now, by the time I got on the phone for the Chase Manhattan bank robbery, I'd been working my process probably at that point in time for at least a year and a half. I worked it on a crisis hotline, which is just emotional intelligence, interacting with people under stress, and everybody's under stress. So, these are basic interactions, but I was doing twice a month, every other week, 4 hours of just straight working a process, working, learning. And I'd been doing that for about a year and a half. And now I will tell you the biggest jump in my abilities probably came in the first month and a half. But then it's expertise is by gradual increments. Why am I bringing this up? As soon as you get started on a good process, you can make a big difference in your outcomes immediately. Now, yeah, it's going to take a while to get to the master's level, but in the meantime, since you're getting better all the time, you can get significantly better quickly, like within just a few weeks of trying to learn how to get something better. And then you're in another level and you can really refine it.
Do you have a rough idea of how many lives you saved and how many you've actually lost?
Yeah, well, first of all, nothing is perfect. Not everything is flawed. My boss used to say best chance of success, which means by definition, you're going to fail sometimes. When we're teaching this to people now, we say, look, you're in a casino in Vegas. Life is a casino. It's Las Vegas rules. It's not ivory tower rules. It's not perfection. So I give you a good process. I'm giving you a choice. Do you want to play at the table where you win 70% of the time? Or do you want to play at the table where you win 20% of the time? Now, your old process, you're probably at 20%. Some people say, you can't tell me that I can't close a deal using this. I'm like, yeah, you close deals. At this table, you win 20% of the time. I can walk you over here to a different table, teach you a different game where you win 70% of the time. The choice is yours. So yeah, there were some hostages that got killed. Sometimes things are just out of your control. Sometimes the deal was never there. That was one of the biggest things that I learned. Sometimes the deal is never there. In business, sometimes the deal is never there. How do you figure that out and walk away quicker if the deal's never going to be there? So learning the process and understanding that you're not always going to win. Now, I rambled a little bit, so I probably got away from your question.
As much as you were a negotiator, you truly were someone who was hired to save lives. And there are people right now that are in their negotiating and sales industry, whether it's selling for themselves or hired by a company to sell their products and services. Maybe they're finding it difficult to fall in love with the process, the skill, or even their reason and purpose for doing what they do. Maybe their reason to succeed isn't as emotional as yours. although you save lives, I believe they are fighting, people are still fighting their own battle to save their own life. What advice would you give to those who haven't found their why, their reason, their purpose yet?
Yeah, well, especially around negotiations, that's a great question because predominantly negotiation has a reputation of attacking the other side, having leverage. Everybody asks about leverage. Yeah, leverage is about hurting people. Leverage is about inflicting pain on the other side. And some people just don't want to attack the other side. They may not be in love with negotiation because how they perceive it to be. Great negotiation is about great collaboration. It's about a great long-term relationship. One of the great things that, the most flattering thing that somebody ever told me, I was sitting at a cocktail party one night and they said, your book it's not about negotiation, it's about collaborating. It's about building a great collaboration for a long-term relationship. That's what your book is about. And that's it exactly. If you haven't fallen in love with the process yet, it's probably because you don't want to inflict pain on other people, or you don't want to have pain inflicted on you. That's bad negotiation. People that brag about negotiations where they really hurt the other side, or, I had them over a barrel. They had no choice. That wasn't a great negotiation. Those people don't have very many success stories. What we know for sure is if you think negotiation is about hurting the other side, you probably got one deal that you brag about every 5 years. People that we teach negotiation, they got something to brag about every week, if not every day, because they're not into hurting the other side. They're into making great deals where they make a lot of money, but it doesn't have to be at the other side's expense. The other side's actually happy that they dealt with them and they want to do it again. That's how you get rich. You leave people who want to deal with you again.
So before we go into the how-tos and the skills of negotiating, what is the black swan concept?
Yeah, the black swan, it's inspired by Nicholas Taleb's book in 2007 called The Black Swan. And he got the idea from, 16th, 17th century Europe. They only had white swans. And they thought there was no such thing as a black swan. That's impossible. And then he went down to Australia and they found black swans in Australia. So black swan is something innocent, small, or innocuous that changes everything. And there are black swans everywhere. The impact of the highly improbable. There are always black swans. There's always something you could find out in any given interaction. It's going to change the entire course of the deal. So we want to define ourselves from the very beginning. My company, we say, look, the black swans out there are going to change your life. Let's find out what they are in each deal and change your life. Let's put you in a bigger house. Let's help you get better education for your children. Let's let you have long-term relationships with people who want to do business with you. That's what black swans are. The things that make all the difference in the world, and they're usually small and subtle, and they're right in front of you. So
let's get straight into the part where I'm very excited to talk about the nits and the grits, the tools of building this negotiating system. When people view the skill negotiating or sales, they categorize it as a business skill, not knowing that the greatest negotiators and salesmen unconsciously, they negotiate daily with or without any effort. I've heard you say it, on average, we negotiate 7 times a day. How do people become more persuasive in both their professional and personal life?
Well, first of all, it's just practice. If you're in 7 or 8 negotiations a day, these are usually small stakes negotiations, and these are opportunities to get some practice in. If you start out a phrase, a sentence, I want or I need, you're in a negotiation. You're talking to somebody you need something from. If someone walks up to you and says, I want or I need, you're in a negotiation. They're talking to you because they want or need something. In many cases, these are small things. I want a cup of coffee. I need a glass of water. I need you to listen to me for a minute. You're constantly negotiating for time and attention. If time and attention is involved, you're in a negotiation. People think they're only in negotiations when money's involved. Maybe 10, 15, 20% of your negotiations, money's involved. Time and attention is always involved in a negotiation. So, what's your best practice? How do you start out? Start out by hearing the other side out. Someone says, I want or I need to you. Find out what's behind the want or the need. Get them talking. There's a really good chance that they came to you to ask you for something. In point of fact, they didn't realize that they're bringing you some great gain. You got to find out what's going on. So the first step in any negotiation is hearing the other side out.
Life is a series of negotiations, and people should always be prepared for the most. But for those who believe they aren't great at the skill, they won't use it in the future, negotiating is as simple as buying a car, whether it's buying a home, negotiating your rent, even with your partner or your children. What would you give? What would you tell someone about the competitive edge in their discussion when negotiating?
Yeah, well, it's, hearing the other side out, forcing collaboration into the interaction early on. Gentleman I spoke to recently, he was talking about using these skills with his wife. And so significant other, husband, wife, doesn't matter, whoever your significant other is. Whenever the significant other, in this case his wife, is sort of on a rampage, on venting if something's bothering her, the first issue is, does she want him to do anything, or does she just want him to listen? So how does he start out? He says, how can I help? It's that simple. It makes her feel like, first of all, that she's got his attention. It makes her feel in control. It's a great thing about a how question. Makes the other side feel safe and comfortable, but simultaneously makes them stop and look at you, and makes them ask themselves, really, what do I want from this person right now? He finds out immediately whether or not she just wants somebody to listen, she wants him to help her solve a problem, she wants him to do something. Because when somebody starts talking to you, those are the three options. They want you to listen, they want your advice, they want you to do something. By simply saying, how can I help? He immediately gets the answer. She doesn't feel interrupted, she feels listened to. So this is great collaboration with a spouse, with a child. Your child's coming to you with a problem. And your children from age 3 on, one of your jobs as a parent is to help them think. When you say to your child, how can I help? How do you want this to turn out? How do you want to move forward? You're making your child think, which is your job as a parent. You want to equip them with the skills that turn them into great adults. The first thing you got to do is teach them how to think for themselves. So these dynamics take place all around us, and these are opportunities to try the skills out and find out what kind of an impact it can have on your daily life.
Chris, having control in a negotiating is like having freedom and ownership. And in a negotiation, it's going to be a game of tennis from the ball bouncing back and forth, because both sides know what they want to achieve. So how does the person that's talking maintain the control and have the person who's listening dance to their music?
Well, here's a subtle, a 2 millimeter shift. I'd ask for you and everybody else to think about, to listen to, just to consider. The secret to gaining the upper hand in a negotiation is giving the other side the illusion of control. Because you just talked a moment ago about how good it feels to be in control. When you feel good in a negotiation, you're actually much more collaborative. So the secret to gaining the upper hand is giving the other side the illusion of control. They're going to be more collaborative. We like I like what or how questions. How do you want to proceed? How do you want to move forward? What have you got in mind? The kinds of things that let the other person feel good about the interaction. Control is a really satisfying feeling. It feels good. It's almost addicting. And there's a difference between control and the upper hand, and you might be in control, but you might not find the best outcome. So giving the illusion of control to the other side is a great way to start a great collaboration, and also let the other side know they don't have to be afraid of you. Because one of the reasons you want to be in control is because you're worried that the other side is going to hurt you, they're going to take something from you, they're going to make it a negative interaction in some way. As soon as you don't have to worry about these anymore, you're much freer to collaborate.
What is the theory behind labeling and verbal observation?
Yeah, all right, so great. Those are the same thing. Now, we've had some of our clients call labeling as unlocking the floodgates of truth talk, because you're trying to find out what's going on with the other side. Now, a label is a verbal observation. What's a verbal observation? Putting a label or a name or a title on a dynamic or an emotion that you've seen. For example, a great label when somebody comes up to you and says, I want, I need X, whatever it is. The great label in that moment is to say, seems like you've got a good reason for that. Now, what that does is it really quickly gets the other side spilling their guts about why and what they want, what they just asked for. They're giving you a massive amount of information. That's why it's called unlocking the floodgates of truth talk. You can then listen to all this information that they're giving you and be much smarter in your response as soon as you got the why behind the what. And this is really a great way to get out the why without actually asking for the why.
How important when negotiating is tonality? And how can someone who has no clue, because most people feel like they got to be monotone or they got to, they don't want to sound like someone they truly not. So how important is it tonality, and how important is it to master the art of tonality?
Yeah, it's huge. Both are massively important. I can begin to change how your brain is operating with as soon as you hear my tone of voice, which means I can impact your thinking before I finish the sentence. And this is great for telephone. This is telephone and in person. Tone of voice is huge. Everybody has what's in their head called mirror neurons, which means my tone of voice hits your mirror neurons and actually causes a chemical change in your brain that changes the pace of your thinking, to slow it down, speed it up, make you angry. At hostage negotiation, we called it the late night FM DJ voice. Now, if you heard my voice just now, I just slowed your brain down. Now, we invented this in hostage negotiation before neuroscience. We didn't know why it slowed people's brains down, why it calmed them down. We just knew it did. And in a hostage negotiation, you got to get the other side calm as quick as you can. So they taught us to use this voice, and all we knew was that it worked. And for me, it's more important to me what works. Why it works is interesting to me afterwards, but I want to know what works. Now, the flip side is, if you said something that I think is crazy, let's say you came up to me and said, I want you to give me all your money right now. Instead of, I might say, seems like you have a reason for that? Now, my tone of voice there was curious, actually interested. When I inflected up at the end of that, seems like you have a reason for that? Suddenly you're open to telling me why you want what you want. Tone of voice caused all that. I could have said, seems like you have a reason for that. Exact same words. But my tone of voice said, you're an idiot. I think that's stupid, which impacts the way that you think. So when you start practicing tone of voice and watching its impact on people, you can have a lot of fun, and actually you can make a big difference in a conversation immediately.
I mean, I'm just thinking about it right now. When I first got in sales at 18 years old, I subconsciously did this without even being trained, because when you continuously practice it, it just becomes a reality to you.
Yeah, and everybody listening to Sashin right now, you like his tone of voice, which makes you open to what he has to say. Now, he's talking about it. He learned it when he was in sales from 18. I'm here to tell you that he got interested in people at a very young age and had been interested far before 18. So he gets dropped into sales at 18. He's probably already got his 10,000 hours of curiosity about human beings in. And as soon as he learns it with tone of voice, bang, he puts it in place. So that's pretty cool. I'm not surprised to hear that at all.
Hey, I want you to take a quick split second of your time. All I want you to do is hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications. I want to update you when I have a next iconic guest on my show. Stay in student mode. Chris, you've mastered tactical empathy. For those who don't know the theory, could you elaborate as well as why is it so important to listen to the other side? And other side could be a prospect, it could be a guest, it could be your future client. It doesn't necessarily have to be, someone in a negotiation. It could be in sales.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason why we call it tactical empathy is because empathy as a word has been around for a really long time. Now, neuroscience is hard science that guides us. Really good neuroscience has probably only been around for about 5 or 6, 7 years. We know now from neuroscience that the brain's survival mode, our default mode, if you will, is survival mode. Our default mode is negative. It's what we inherited from the caveman days. The negative caveman survived, the optimistic caveman got eaten. Well, we're not in the caveman days anymore. By and large, we don't have to worry about getting eaten by a tiger every day. By and large, we're not living in caves. By and large, we're not living around campfires. If you're listening to this interview, chances are those aren't what's going on in your life. But we still have inherited that wiring. We're still built like that. This is human nature wiring. This is one of the reasons why every hostage negotiation team in the world uses the same skills, because it works with human beings. The hostage negotiation team in Cape Town, South Africa, who I have trained with internationally, uses the same hostage negotiation skills as the hostage negotiation team in Tokyo, Japan, because we're human beings globally. So tactical is the application of what we know from neuroscience to empathy, and what we know from neuroscience is we're largely negative, and that gets in our way first. So what we want to do tactically is label the negatives, because neuroscience tells us by simply identifying them and calling them out, that diminishes them every time. Not denying them, simply identifying them. In the United States, we have an expression, the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is the negativity in the room, the problem in the room, the things that the people in the room are upset about. And we never get rid of the elephant in the room by ignoring it. And we never get rid of the elephant in the room by denying it's there, saying like, nah, there's no elephant in the room. And people go like, there's an elephant right here. There's a huge obstacle. There's a problem here. You denying it shows that you're afraid. What we learn from tactical empathy and from neuroscience is if we say, hey, look, there's an elephant in the room. I know you're angry with me. I know you feel upset with what I've done. And I know you're concerned that you're wasting my time talking with me. Those are all identifying the elephant in the room. And we know from neuroscience that instead of denying it, but simply recognizing it, calling it out, validating its existence is the fastest way to make it go away.
This is as much as it's a skill game, it's such a mind game. It's as if you're playing chess. And I can totally relate to that. Chris, my first business was in sales, and I sold more than 140,000 memberships, in which we did over $1 billion in sales. But 100% of those sales began from a phone call or a text message. Is negotiating from the time your future client picks up the phone, or only when it's time to sell? Talk us through that process till the seller asks for the check.
Yeah, well, it starts in the first moment, because what are you negotiating? You're negotiating their further attention. What are you trying to establish? Moment by moment. You're trying to establish trust and competence. Those two things start out first. Even if you know what you're doing, if I can't trust you, what difference does it make to me that you know what you're doing? And particularly in today's day and age, the things that most people are most concerned about, first of all, safe. Are they safe? Are you going to cheat me? Are you going to make me worse off? Secondly, can I trust you? Third, do I need what you have? The sooner those things become evident to me in that order, the sooner we can make the deals. Now, I'll bet I could go back to those text messages, phone calls, sales messages that you started out right away. And clearly, the subtleties of how you let people know that they could trust you, that you knew what you were doing, and that what you had was something they needed. But you only get there a little at a time. And, you know, they say, go slow to go fast. If you're in too much of a hurry at the beginning, it makes people afraid to trust you. You're in too much of a hurry. So methodical approach to how you lay this out for people, and in that order, is critical to the success of negotiating the time and attention in the next moment.
The light at the end of the tunnel is getting a yes, and that's what everyone wants. What is the right way to negotiate a yes? And then I'm going to go to the next question, which is the no, because I know you love the no's. But let's get to the yes first.
Well, it depends upon what the yes is too, you know, because people can be so fixated on the yes, it could be the counterfeit yes. You know, there's three kinds of yeses: commitment, confirmation, and counterfeit. What you're really looking for is agreement. And if your yes is agreement, then that's cool. It's a good thing. But then after yes, what happens? Yes is nothing without how. People a lot of times say yes genuinely, but they haven't thought through the how. And so if you're thinking about how from the very beginning, the yes becomes far less important and the how becomes much more important, because the yes without a how is not going to go anywhere. So yes is a step along the way. I mean, I think the first thing that I want people to think about is yes is not a destination, or it's not the destination. It could be a route to the destination, but the real destination is how. The real destination is the future. So if we're talking about yes at all, we got to make sure what kind of a yes we're getting. And we got to understand, as you said in chess, what's the next move after yes? Well, the next move's got to be around how. And if it's not, then you get to yes, you go, well, now what do we do? Well, we didn't think about it. How are we going to move forward from here? So I really like people to think a lot about how, and that yes is an avenue, and there are other avenues to how.
So the ratio is always going to be against us in life, despite how incredibly experienced and talented we are. We're going to go through more no's and rejections than those who actually say yes. But how valuable is it to get people to say no? Because the minute someone hears no, their brain creates fear and they want to get out the game. So how valuable is it to get those no's?
Well, understanding what no really means in a conversation. No is typically not a rejection. No could be, I'm not ready yet. No could be, I don't trust you yet. And no could be, I don't see this yet. You know, first of all, get rid of your fear of no. Actually embrace the term no. Because the great thing about the word no is people feel safe and secure after they've said no. They feel like they've just protected themselves. They're actually a lot more open to sharing information if there are problems. And there are always problems. You know, there's always issues. There's always black swans. There's always stuff you haven't talked about. So as an example, to accelerate the process, I might say, do you agree with this? Instead, I'm going to say, do you disagree? And you'll probably say, no, I don't disagree, but here are the following problems. And you'll lay them out for me really quickly, because having said no, you feel safe laying out those problems because you don't feel any commitment or obligation by laying them out. So I'm actually getting into how much quicker. You get into how much quicker after no, because people are much more comfortable in saying it. They're much more open to listen once they've been made to feel safe. So I love the word no because it makes the other side feel safe, and I can get at the real issues right after they've said it.
Here's a fun fact. I actually went through 145 no's before I actually got my very first yes.
Nice.
And
resilience.
Yeah. Grit.
This is the key to resilience. And then on top, every single time you got no, you got a little smarter. You know, I got an intern working in my company now. I said, you know, if you want to get better, you need to show me that you learn every time I say no to something. When you come back, if you don't show me you're smarter, we got a problem. but every no is an opportunity to get smarter. With all those no's that you got in that process, it increased your instinct and your read of the situation, so you can get to yes later on much quicker because you now got a better feel for the problem.
So people get so programmed to a script or saying the right things at the right time to the right person. But how vital is it to read the situation first, find the pain, and then the ability to shift your focus off yourself and to actually pay attention to the other side?
Yeah, people love scripts because it makes it predictable. But scripts leave money on the table. Yeah. Because if you get scripted, you start missing black swans. You start looking for very specific responses. And what a person is going to do is going to try to give you an answer. It's like, nah, close, but no cigar. Well, and sorry for the American phrase again, close, but no yes. And somebody who's into a script is going to completely miss the opportunity there. One of the things that we teach people is flexibility. Never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't take something better. And this gets right into your point about reading the situation. Well, if you can start getting a read, you want to get the dialogue going so you can get a read for the other side. Maybe there's something else that's more important to them. Maybe there's something about what you're offering them that would improve it significantly if you were just listening to them. So getting off script and reading the signs in the moment, which then takes us back to something you asked me about before, the label. Like if somebody says to you, yes. Well, if you're completely oriented to yes, you're going to be like, woo-hoo, woo-hoo, I got a yes, fantastic. But the person who's reading in the moment is going to say, well, I heard you say yes, but it seems like there was some hesitancy in your voice. And the other side is going to be greatly relieved. Suddenly their trust in you has just gone up because they know there was hesitancy in their voice. They're hoping you pick up in it. It's a trust test at that moment. Can I trust you to indicate that I got some problems here? Can I trust you to listen to my problems? So in the moment, if you're reading, that's a real trust issue for the future relationship. Read it in the moment. Then whatever you read in the moment, say, seems like something's bothering you. Or whatever that label might be. You'll be surprised at how good your labels are once you start to practice them.
From your past experiences, why is it so bad to ask, is it a good time to talk? What's the logic behind that?
Yeah, because people are worried about, if you say it's a good time to talk, here's what goes through their mind. Well, I don't know what you want to talk about. So I don't even know how long I'm going to be on the phone. What do you want to talk about? Do I want to talk to you? How can I get off the phone? How long is this going to take? The problem is the yes-oriented, is it a good time to talk, triggers all this thinking. What does that mean? They're actually not listening. While somebody's thinking all these thoughts in their head, they're in their head. They're not listening to what you're saying. So that, they might say yes, but they're really worried about where this is going. So the flip side that we teach people is, it sounds insane, but we say it's now a bad time to talk. You're going to get one of two reactions. Somebody's going to say, no, it's never a bad time to talk. What do you got? And they're going to be completely focused in the moment. Or they're going to say, yeah, it's a bad time. Now, do you want to talk to somebody when it's a bad time? Not if you want to make a living, because they're not going to want to talk to you if you want to talk when they just told you it's a bad time. So if it's a bad time and they don't give you another time, they're also telling you like, I don't know that I ever want to talk to you. This is vital information. What you're going to get most often if they say yes is, yeah, it's a bad time, but I can talk to you tomorrow at 2. They will lay out when they have a good time, having felt safe and secure in the interaction. What you need is their full attention. You're negotiating for their attention. Remember, you're trying to sell the opportunity to them. And if you don't have their attention, you're never going to get it. So the real issue on the time and attention negotiation is, how do I make them feel safe in the very beginning? You make them feel safe by getting them to say no instead of yes to start off with.
I mean, asking someone if it's the wrong time to talk and they say I'm busy is equivalent to asking someone, do you have the finances to buy my product or service? And they say, no, you can't beat them up until you get them to buy it, it's not going to work.
Yeah, this is vital information. And I'm sure you've heard this phrase. There's a phrase in the U.S. It's not a sin to not get the deal. It's a sin to take a long time to not get the deal. And if you're struggling when they are giving you indicators that they don't want to talk to you, you're going to spend a long time not getting that deal. And you don't need that. It's not the way you make a living, not getting deals.
So let's just say your prospect, your future customer says that they don't have the money right now, because that's a very common, in sales, it's a very common, in fact, the number one objection. In most cases, that's an excuse. I believe it's an excuse because the real reason is because they don't see the value in the product, maybe, or the service or the opportunity. How would you change that mindset of what would you do up front to answer that objection?
Yeah, well, that's a great understanding of what someone is really saying when they're saying, I just don't have the money right now. You're 1,000%, I agree with you 1,000%, that they're saying, it's not that they don't have the money, it's that they don't see the value. So let's get back to the label skill, the label of a dynamic. That's when you say, sounds like you just don't see the value here. They're going to want to stay in that conversation. You've just heard them in a way nobody else ever has. The first thing you need to know is if they see any value. If they don't see any value at all, you're now wasting your time. It's time to move on. If they see value, you need to know right away what that value is. So you begin to pull out, is there a deal here ever? You need to understand how far from a deal it might be. You need to know what their adjustments in the deal might be. They may have a better deal for you. It doesn't matter what percentage of the time they have a better deal for you. I'm here to tell you it's 75% of the time. Let's say it's only 5% of the time. You need that 5%. Suddenly you're 5% better. Suddenly you're 5% more effective. Suddenly you just gave yourself a raise of 5%. So putting a label on what they're saying is a great way to find out what's going on underneath. How do they define value? What, if anything, about you at all has value? If nothing about you has value, head for the door. You're spinning your wheels. So that's a great way to respond to, I just don't have the money right now. Find out what's going on the other side.
Chris, I've heard you talk about mirroring the last 3 words in a negotiation. And if anyone's on Facebook or Instagram, they see that video, that masterclass video every single day. And it's just running through me. Why is that's so effective? And how can people use the mirroring method right now with certainty?
Yeah, all right. So mirroring is just repeating the last 1 to 3-ish words that somebody has just said. I mean, it's never going to be more than 5. Sometimes it could be 1 word. Just the last 3 words of what they've said. This works on so many levels. It's insane. First of all, it's the simplest thing anybody can do. And some people reject it because that's too simple. That'll never work. The funny thing is the smartest negotiators love this skill because it's so simple. I mean, the brilliant emotional intelligence people love simple stuff that works like a charm. So mirroring someone keeps them talking. It connects a thought in their head. It helps them keep going. It helps them reword what they just said. They blurt stuff out since they're rewording what they just said that they never thought that they would blurt out. So it's a great way to get the other side going. I know some people that the only thing that they do is mirror. They mirror all day long. They mirror the same person in the same conversation. Why doesn't the other person ever see it? Because the conversation went on for 45 minutes and the person mirroring them only mirrored them 3 times in 45 minutes. The other cool thing what's the benefit for you? It gives you time to think. I mean, it just adds all this great space in the negotiation where the other side is talking, which means you're learning, you're gathering your bearings, you're getting a lot of great information. I mean, the mirroring skill is one of the most phenomenal, simplest skills out there. And the smartest people seem to love it because it is so simple.
As much as people need, and it's such a simple, as you mentioned, such a simple technique that people want to say, hold on, it's too simple. Let me mix it up. Let me make it more difficult, because you can't become successful by just doing the smallest things. And Also mentioning a name, mentioning that person's name over and over and over again in the conversation. People love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Stick to the stuff that makes people feel safe. As soon as they feel safe, they're going to give you information and they're going to trust you, which is an essential element at all times, but especially in these times of making great deals.
Putting the three components together, which is, content, tonality, and the body language that we spoke about. I've watched you teach about the 738 and 55 rule. What's the theory behind that?
All right. So the theory is that people react 7% to the words, 38% to the tone of voice, and 55% to the body language. Now, people want to get all bent out of shape. Are those the exact numbers? By the way, the three of those things add up to 100%. So 100% of their reaction. The critical issue is the ratios. And people react more to your tone of voice and what they said. I could say to you, sounds like you got a good reason for saying that. I could say, sounds like you got a good reason for saying that. Now, the first one was a compliment. The second one was an insult. I didn't change the words at all. I just changed my tone of voice. That should begin to give you an idea of what an impact tone of voice has. Somebody says to you, yes, or they say, yes. Same word. One is enthusiastic, let's go, let's do it. The other one is, I'm scared, I'm worried, I don't know if I could trust you, I'm getting ready to run away from you. Same word. That should give you an idea of how huge tone of voice is. Now, body language. You get a good read on somebody based on expression on their face before they've said a word. You start reading people's faces and walk up and say to them, instead of saying, how are you, say, seems like you got a lot on your mind. Seems like you're having a good day. Seems like you're having a bad day. You get that complete read on their body language, just on their face. They trust you instantly because you're paying attention to them. What happens when you're on the phone and there's no body language to read? There's been a number of studies done on that. Almost all the information goes straight into tone of voice. You get good at reading tone of voice, people are going to feel like you're reading their mind, because I've had people say that to me. And all I was doing was reading their tone of voice. And they said, wow, you're reading my mind. I'm like, nah, I'm reading your tone of voice.
In closing up, in this podcast, we talked about the techniques on mastering, negotiating. What does Chris Voss want to be known for? What do you want your legacy to be?
Helping people have better lives, period. Negotiating, helping you make life-changing deals constantly. We get feedback literally weekly. Somebody saying, I made a deal that's going to change my life. The important thing about that is when they say that, they didn't say, I really beat the other side. We don't have victims. We don't victimize the other side. A life-changing deal is not about victimizing the other side. The other side gets benefit too. We just get more. The other side doesn't lose. So we help people have better lives every week, if not every day. And that's what I want people to remember me for, having people have better lives.
Incredible, Chris. Your book, Never Split the Difference, New York Times bestseller, incredible work. And where can people get it from? I know it's on Amazon and every other site. Is any particular site you want them to pick it up from?
Now, if you haven't bought the book yet and you got access to Amazon, wherever you are in the world, Amazon has the best prices. I buy my books on Amazon. Amazon give you a better price than any bookstore close by to you. In the U.S. today, the price on Amazon was like $18.31. If you go out to a bookstore, it's probably going to cost you $25. Buy it on Amazon. The next thing I want you to do, though, is get our free stuff. The Black Swan Group has lots of free material. Go to the website, blackswanltd.com, BLACKSWANLTD.com. On the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a tab for the blog. Go to the blog and subscribe. It's our newsletter. It comes out every Tuesday morning. It's free, free, Free. It's a good price. short, concise articles, help you on Tuesday morning early, which is where probably your best mindset for learning is probably on Tuesday morning. Get you teed up for the entire week. Also, all the articles on the blog are searchable. Whatever negotiation you're in right now, we've written an article on it. Short, sweet, concise, actionable, specific advice on how to tackle the problem. Take everything that we give for free off the website, combine that with the book. At some point in time, you'll be ready for next level training, but I'm here to tell you with the book and the newsletter and our free stuff, you are going to be able to start making a difference in your life as soon as you start applying the ideas, which should be tomorrow. You want to start changing your life, change it starting with tomorrow's sunrise, with the stuff that you learned today.
Chris, before we wrap it up, I always ask this trademark question to every one of my guests. What does self-talk sound like with Chris Voss? And I'm talking about not always at the pinnacle, but your testing times. What is that self-talk within your mind?
Yeah, it's the to me or for me approach to life. This is happening. Why is this happening to me? You know, why is this guy screwing up? You know, why does it happen to me that they're not getting the idea? That's negative thinking. I mean, to me, it's to me, for me. When I get a problem that comes up now, I go like, how's this happening for me? How's this helping me get better? This is saving me from a bigger problem. I just got hit with a big tax bill. You know, how's this happening for me? Wow, I got to keep better records. Wow, this is helping me avoid an even bigger tax bill. I must be leaving money on the table in so many other ways. Thank God I got this notification to wake me up that I was making mistakes. If I made a mistake here, I'm making it in a lot of other places. I don't even know how it's costing me money. So to me, self-talk for Chris Voss is to me or for me. How's this happening for me? How's this helping me make more money down the line? How's this making me smarter? That's my self-talk.
Chris Voss, thank you so much for your time and just your knowledge, your wisdom, and the experience that you're giving the audience, viewers, and listeners. So I appreciate you for being on the Millionaire Student Show.
Thank you, brother. I mean, it's an honor to be on with you. You got smart people that follow you, and I love being around smart people.
Appreciate it.